In this era of heightened disasters and chaos, social upheaval, there's more focus on preparedness. And I think that these things do tend to come in cycles. And we're moving into a new solar cycle on top of everything else that's taking place. We're seeing the increase in natural disasters and concerns about geopolitical outcomes. And so I'm not here to knock anyone else's business when it comes to survival products, but to remind you that if you do your research, you can usually get it cheaper. Buying wholesale always helps. And so when we're talking about having flour, quinoa, buckwheat, things of that nature, there are companies that can help you save a lot. You're going to get different perspectives on preparedness based on the knowledge and bias of the person that's giving you the information. I would recommend that you not just look at things through the lens that you're normally accustomed to looking at things through, but to step outside the box of a political lens or another lens and look at just general preparedness. And understand that there are different plans for different scenarios. What scenarios are we looking at right now? What scenarios are we looking at in the future? Leave your comment down below. But as you look online for the top 10 things you might want to have in a disaster, you're going to get different perspectives. What we're going to do now is read from the 4 Patriots survival guide, which I went over several hours with 2 years ago. We're doing it again during this time of increased tensions. So the first emphasis is on water. Number 2, dried fruits and vegetables. I'm going to skim through the specifics to save time because I want to get into the other pamphlet. But these things are going to be high in vitamins. And that's going to be key to survival. Number 3, grains and cereals. Right? So we have millet, buckwheat, things like that, oats, which can go a long way to help somebody fill up in a time of starvation. Storage is important. Gomacil lids are not necessarily needed, but they help for long term. But are we really dealing with something super long term now? Number 4, canned meats and fish. Take a look at that canned ground beef on Amazon. It's pretty pricey, but I know it's worth its weight in gold. Also, that canned bacon. So it's like things like that can be tradable. 5, pasta and sauces. 6, nuts and seeds. Quinoa is a seed, by the way. It has more amino acids than wheat and many other flours, so consider that. Number 7, juices and powdered milk. I just got some powdered milk recently. Number 8, oils and seasonings. Number 9, comfort foods to help with stress, just like having games around, something to preoccupy. Also think about the chemical withdrawal when people aren't able to access their digital devices. So having things that can consume time, having things around that can keep the mind busy, that's highly recommended. Number 10, non-food items. So let's get into the list. Do you have these items? Do you have a can opener, flashlights and batteries, candles and lighters, copies of legal documents, human and pet medications, toiletries and cleaning supplies? You get some Windex for that window. Clothing and footwear, sleeping bags and backpacks, dishes and utensils. It's like some things I still need to work on. Tools, including a shovel, hammer, and an axe, pocket knife, and rope. First aid supplies, small camping stove, blankets, pencils, pens and paper, garbage bags, insect repellents, radios, multivitamins, canned pet food, firearms, and ammunition. Those are the things that are recommended in this. Some things are going to be outside of someone's reach. Economics is a reality when people have a family to feed, right? Can you necessarily pull out your credit card and purchase what someone else is saying will feed you and your family for 6 months? Do you know that for sure? And I'm just throwing that out there because there are certain products that are packaged to do that. It's important to do it yourself. So the 3 essentials in survive urban chaos, because let's be frank, it is totally unrealistic for a lot of people to move off the grid, especially families, especially people that are for lack of a better word, locked into a particular reality where they are responsible for certain bills and income to take care of their house and whatnot. The thing is, we're talking about scenarios in which wherever you are in America, be you in Denver, be you in Portland, be you in LA, Be you in San Francisco, be you in Miami, be you in Oklahoma City or New York City. Ooh, what a off-grid experience that would be. And we're talking about a reality where extended power would thrust millions of people off the grid instantaneously. So obviously, certain things come up like safety and other things. In the end, we can't just prepare physically. We need to prepare spiritually. And even if we are imperfect, we should attempt to the best of our ability to be good people. And so I don't think right now, even if it is popular, to go way deep into politics or the illusions of separation, even if certain things are trending and going mainstream. I've been discussing these things for nearly 15 years, and it has not been easy. There are many stereotypes that I've had to contend with. Or are you a prepper like the other people? Or are you into this? Or are you with and it's like I've mostly been into what I've been into from an independent perspective, just seeing the writing on the wall and it not being based in politics. But I have been concerned about the Great Divide. And this is something that I would talk about 10 years ago, as we would lead up to this staged, manufactured event and conflict to ensue shortly afterwards on a global level. So are there certain areas that are more at risk in the United States than others? Yes. But is there still value in doing good things in those cities or working in those cities, residing in those places? Because ultimately, to answer an email that came in maybe last week regarding safe places for the 2020s, that's the kind of thing that can change on a dime based on the expression of consciousness in any given area, based on susceptibility to propaganda and the masses whipped up into a frenzy. That's also something to take into consideration, in addition to proximity to highways, freeways, proximity to the Pacific Ocean, proximity to the Atlantic Ocean, because many people for years have had prophetic dreams and visions of certain nation states marching on the United States. And now we're in a day and age where artificial intelligence analyzes, scrutinizes every single word from these videos and determines at the flip of a switch whether you will see it or not. That is a warning sign. So I don't even know how much time we have left to even have a YouTube. All the signs are there. All the signs are there. So do we panic? Or do we attempt to go within for the answers? And maybe a little bit extra. I'm not here to tell you what to believe spiritually. I did a lot more videos on spirituality in the past. I think that that is a personal thing. But I also have the right, as an independent person who's not a member of any religion, to share my mind on the topic, because I do believe in God. And I do believe that things do happen for a reason. And things will happen for a reason when the you-know-what hits the fan. I also believe that we have a very limited understanding of divine intervention. Okay. Now, I might be going a little too deep into the spiritual opinions here, but just because some people may not make it here on earth doesn't mean that in the end they didn't really make it. Maybe they did make it after all. Maybe this is a simulation. Going now into this handbook, it talks about dealing with mobs. It talks about dealing with riots. And so when we deal with the modern day and age of protests and division amongst the nation, this information can be valuable and apply to your life. Situational planning, I'm going to skip there and read a few. All survival preparations need to be geared towards your current situation and your aims. Is it just you? Do you have family to look after? Are any of them disabled? Do you work far from home? These are all really big things. Many of you have children. and in a work situation where it could be happening if there's a child at daycare or at home and you're many miles away, there should be some sort of a plan as to what the family does. Is there a plan? Or if you are an individual, totally solo like myself, do you have a plan to shelter in? A situation where there is no gas, there is no food, there is no water, and maybe a national crisis. Is the area safe? And then we have to look at natural disasters. And as we look at these deep solar minimums and increased cosmic rays, increased lightning strikes, increased fires, you see patterns here with natural disasters during extremes of the solar cycle on the downward solar minimum and on the upward solar maximum. I didn't mean or say a grand solar maximum, but the maxima of the 2020s to where the sunspots start emerging again. 2021, 2022, 2023, even if it's a smaller cycle, still, which it could be, right? It doesn't mean then that the sun has become less powerful. In fact, these solar flashes with a thinning Earth's magnetic field are becoming more powerful as a result. Mitch Batros on Coast to Coast AM saying as far back as 2012 that we would begin to see M-class solar flares with the impact of an X-class solar flare from this type of effect. And I think that there is a reason why there are so many people now looking at the sun, the changes in the sun, the changes in the Earth's magnetic field, and how our grid could be easily impacted. And it's not even as advanced of a grid as it could be. What we saw from PG&E in the shutdown as a result of some fires. Many people are upset about that. But a centralized grid like that is connected in such a way to where one major impact on one end of it could take the whole grid down in a particular area or section. And so we're asking ourselves now, as we go into this uncertain future, are people prepared on the most basic of levels, say California, for example, to deal with a week without power? And it looks like it was not as worse as it was predicted to be or as much as it was feared to be. So certain things come up like generators. Other things come up like solar panels. And so you could say that California and the people in it were given an opportunity to grade themselves on their ability to hunker down for a certain period in time. What I don't think helps, even though we are dealing with a potential event in the future with certain nation states, what I don't think helps is crying wolf and saying that it's happening right now, that they are coming right now. And that type of bombardment may do really well with clicks and generate a certain amount of dollars. But there may be a plan, and I believe that there is. I believe that there is a plan to come on a certain date or time frame. And it would be after the 2020s. Everything now is the buildup, while the breakdown in civil society continues. And we're conditioned to judge each other based on these labels with a high level of mind control conditioning that I don't recognize being around 10 years ago to such a degree that it is right now. To be a real independent, aside from those dominant groups, it is a very precarious time. We're not even in the same world that we were in 1 year ago. There may be portals opening in with certain energies that are streaming in into this planet. They're affecting some people's consciousness. So when it comes to what we're preparing for or to deal with or threats on the horizon, it's not just natural disasters. Oftentimes it's the war fever, it's the upheaval within the collective psyche worldwide that we have to guard against. That shift, that Agent Smith shift, with that archonic consciousness shift within human consciousness. It's happening now. It's happening planetarily. And then people get so deep into politics, like, no. We're trying to explain this is happening worldwide in other countries. People like not even relating to your political rally or your thing. We're talking about humans worldwide being affected by these energy changes. It's time for us to come together on the things that we understand and agree that supersede those illusions of separation. Can we do it here? In this time and space of consciousness? Do you know what you need to acquire? Are you aware of the knowledge that you may need? Are you aware that things are changing? And then someone could also get to the point where they realize that this is happening to such a degree that obsession with fear of not making it, at some point we have to let that go. And realize that there is no true full preparedness without spiritual preparedness and humility before God. So you can go deeper into that information. Protecting your wife and others in a mob situation, situational planning, building a team. I'm going to conclude this video just by going over some of these subheadings and give you some additional food for thought. Operational security, what to do if you need assistance, family rally point. So have you established that? Portable emergency kit. What if you have no car? 72-hour kit bug out bag. Build it yourself. You can buy somebody else's bug out bag for $200. Not going to knock them. And the many people out there that are involved in commerce, right? But if you want to save money, if you're limited on money, learn how to find things. Most of you already know that. I'm assuming most of you already know about eBay and places around the internet where you can buy something much cheaper than the retail cost, either at Walmart or the local sporting goods store. Life-saving knowledge, hunting, disinfection, assessing strangers, okay? Moving, how to escape pursuing cars. Although unlikely, it is not impossible to be pursued by cars looking to force you off the road or seize whatever you have. Unlike Hollywood movies, it will not be an exciting chase through the city with lots of side sweeps and the like. More likely, you're going to have your car aggressively bumped from behind instead. If you have a car, then I recommend that you keep a powerful flashlight. Already I have mentioned having a mag light or something similar, but it's also a good idea to keep a powerful spotlight. I recommend a 5 million candle power spotlight with a sturdy hand grip that will allow you to direct it over your shoulder while still keeping one hand on the steering wheel. Sounds like something out of a movie. Cue the synthwave. By blinding the driver behind you, you can force them to slow down as they cannot see where they are driving. I remember actually being followed home in 2011 to Estacada when me and an old friend were coming back from Portland. That was awkward. But how to scale a 12-foot wall. The key here is to jump in two parts. Take a run up and jump up on your dominant leg, and plant your opposite foot onto the wall. From there, you may want to kick up and out with this foot, which will allow you to gain even greater height. Finally, grab the top of the wall. This is often easier to do with the hand on the same side as the leg that provided the power for the first jump from the ground. Okay, just don't make the mistake of Daniel-san in The Karate Kid. Okay. Forced to move. Now, this is a situation to where many Americans, I've talked about this for over 10 years, could be thrust into involuntarily, even if they had jobs and money, the American refugee experience. And there are many people now, you take a look at certain places where they used to be able to park and work in Mountain Home in California. There's some news about that this week. In the last year, and they've been living in their RVs for a while. Now they have an ordinance where they can no longer live in their RVs in the city. And I understand the concern that people have about the dirt from excessive homeless. We have a situation, though, that's like an epidemic, where people are seeing their rents skyrocket. People are losing their jobs, but not as much as maybe they could during a full-on depression. So is America ready for the American refugee experience? or have things become more complicated for the person on the road or the person labeled homeless. And I think from all the news that we're seeing, because they are a top story, we are not yet seeing deeper solutions that can alleviate the stress that the people concerned about the homeless in the city are experiencing. There's ways to alleviate some of that stress. And a lot of people in literally one place on a literal skid row in the city. There are solutions to those things, especially if some people are willing to help themselves. Then, of course, there's going to be some people that aren't. But is America ready for the American refugee experience now that we've been so divided over classism? And I would say the answer is no. We're becoming less prepared. If anything, the modern homelessness epidemic could be a trial run in a humanitarian crisis in attempting to fix the situation. And the lack of these cities being able to create jobs and opportunities is a warning sign of what we're facing when we're really in a depression. That's not fear-mongering. That's the reality of where we're at. And so the manufactured domestic divides powered by social media have even have inhibited cooperative groups from working together. People that previously may have been friends or may have been wanting to work together in an off-grid setting, maybe even creating functional off-grid cities separate from the grid. We've been sabotaged. I think you guys understand this by now, by this political divide and more. We've been sabotaged in so many different ways. And so the greatest healing from this trauma is the building of community, rebuilding of trust amongst each other. Remembering what it's like to have a barbecue or a potluck or a trip to the park with friends. Technology has played a huge role in our isolation that we are collectively experiencing in this time, some more than others. So this is a time of survival. This is a time of spiritual strength. This is a time of gratitude that we even have our lives, where so many in this world do not. I'm grateful for my life. And at the same time, I completely renounce this world in all materialism and all unconscious attachment to ego and the body self. I want to rise above this type of a world. And I don't know how somebody evolves beyond this type of a soul prison unless they try to help people with information. Even if there are bumps along the road as we speak our truth or read from some of these books. Right? It is still information that we are putting out there that can help other people. How to pass through or escape a mob. Okay, so it talks about precaution in that. And what I would say is that's the most important area in this. The key to pass is to pass unnoticed. A mob is usually uncoordinated. If you can pass yourself off as such, a similar small player in a massive mob and not stand out, that you can safely pass through and emerge on the other side. This person's actually talking about role-playing in a mob situation to not get taken out. Do not run. Running will identify you immediately against the backdrop of those standing still or walking. Walk relaxed and normally. It may help to occasionally look in the direction of other rioters as if you are engaged against the same threat. When you do so, look in the distance at the same target. If you have a backpack where it is on one arm only, then sling it over the other side and out of the view of rioters if you can. Avoid eye contact with other rioters. Look where you are going into the distance, but if you know where you are going, as if you know where you're going. Do not glue your eyes to the ground, as this arouses suspicion. If someone shouts at you, ignore them as if you had not heard them. If they shout at you again, turn and look at them in the eye and respond aggressively. If you respond weakly, you will be seen as a potential victim. Interesting. If you are in a car and a mob starts to attack your vehicle, the best thing is to hit the gas and get out of there as soon as possible, all the while banging your horn. So this is discussing a life or death situation. Unfortunately, if we look at the legal situation today, I think the people out there that have been victimized by the mobs in the streets jumping on the cars, the law, unfortunately, is not on their side if they do that. Keep that in mind if it's not a genuine shit hitting the fan situation. Make sense? What to do when face-to-face and outnumbered by a mob? Should you immediately run? No, coming face-to-face with a mob usually means that one person in the mob has identified you as a potential target. They are still assessing you. Otherwise, they would have already attacked you. By calling you out, a member of a mob is actually protecting themselves, getting to know you better in order to weigh their chances. This is not a deliberate ploy, but something that happens naturally and without thinking. You will get one chance and one chance only to answer them and show them they should not waste their time on you. You need to get yourself into the mindset of the crazy alpha male. Imagine the guy that fights for enjoyment, has over 100 fights in his lifetime. Those he's won most of them. He doesn't even think about losing. He never assesses the risk because he's a hard case. I think it's interesting advice for some people. Fighting mentality and tactics. So may you be blessed with protection and not be in this type of a situation. I think that a lot of people with family and loved ones, pretty women, are going to be put in some dangerous situations. Haggling and bartering. Scavenging. How to neutralize the effects of tear gas. Communication, disaster specifics, pandemic, food crises, riots, flooding, tornado, other events, civil war, fuel shortage, EMP pulse, economic collapse, recommended training, first aid, wild food identification, martial arts, having a private pilot's license. Be nice to know somebody with a helicopter. Keeping mind and body fit, maintaining a daily routine. Okay, physical exercise, mental exercise. This would include meditation, long-term urban survival, and then it has a couple case studies like Hurricane Katrina. And this is something I picked up for $9 at the thrift store. This is a CB radio. Breaker, outside the box TV, broadcasting live from the mountaintop. Who knows, maybe one day, right, this will help me connect with others. I think that's all for now. Hopefully this spurs some intellectual analysis in your consciousness over the blind spots that you may have in your preparedness plan.